Hey guys, sorry for this slightly weird angle. It doesn't look too bad, but you're sitting on the computer desk and angled upwards at me because I have no idea where the tripod is for this camera. It is currently 5:29 p.m. on October 14th, and this is the first video that I have filmed since September 24th. I'm going to go ahead and fill you in on why before I get into actual writing stuff, but it's been a hectic, stressful, wild couple weeks. Starting off right from the top, I haven't done a ton of writing. I'm not done with Serial Killers Anonymous like I had expected to be by the end of September. I'm still editing for Gent, which was expected, thankfully. And I haven't made a ton of progress on any of my books. I've barely done any writing. I've written, I think, 6,000 words this month so far, which, if you're not new here, that is not very normal for me. Normally at this point, ideally, I'm well over 20,000. Ideally. But outside of that, let's get into things. On September 25th, which was it was something. Hold on. September 25th was a Friday. That checks out. So on that Friday, early in the morning, sometime after midnight, and I think before 2 a.m., because I think I was still drinking coffee at that point, and 2 a.m. is when I stop. So that way my stomach is empty for my thyroid meds, so on and so forth. But that morning, Willie, which is my little dog, he went to stand up from his bed because I have a bed for him in the living room with me, so he can be in there sometimes while I am. And he stood up out of his bed, and then he just went stiff all of a sudden, and he just fell to the side, just completely passed out. So I picked him up, I righted him, I set him back in his bed, and he was a little confused, but he was okay, generally. And then later on that same morning, after a couple hours, I think, I took him back to the laundry room so that way he could get a drink. And as soon as I set him down, he got stiff again and he fell forward, and I caught him before his face hit the floor. But I dealt with that, that fear, that worry, that anxiety for about 8 hours before I was able to call the vet, because otherwise it would have been an emergency vet, which would have also increased the fee for his hospital visit by at least a good $100. But I called the vet around 8 when they opened, and I got an appointment for him at 9 or 10 something that morning on the 25th. I don't remember for certain. And we went in, and she checked his heart, so on and so forth, and she could barely hear his heart because his breathing is so loud. So they took him in for an x-ray, and they drew his blood, and he has heart failure. So more than likely, the episodes that he experienced with the falling to the side or forward were most likely fainting from a lack of oxygen to his brain, which was hard enough to hear all on its own. He's currently on 2 medications. One's a diuretic and one is an ACE inhibitor, which basically the diuretic moves the fluid that his heart is pumping currently into his lungs. It moves it to his bladder, so he pees it out instead. And the ACE inhibitor lowers his blood pressure, so that way his blood can pump a little easier, and hopefully everything gets the oxygen flowing back to his brain and keeps the fluid out of the places that it doesn't belong. So, going forward from there, I spent the next week to 2 weeks just babysitting Willie consistently, making sure that he had no more fainting spells, making sure that he wasn't having a reaction to the medication, keeping an eye on his coughs, keeping an eye on how loud his breathing was, keeping an eye on his activity, his mobility, how often he was eating, how often he wasn't, was his water intake increasing, was he going outside more to pee, so on and so forth. And right now, things are going okay with him. He's asleep, right down here, and he's okay. His breathing isn't exactly silent by any means. He still coughs, but it's much less often than before. He is taking in a lot more water during the day. He's going outside a lot more during the day. He still has days where he doesn't eat all 3 meals, or he's completely unwilling to touch food at all unless I bribe him into eating it with a treat or something, and even then he doesn't eat all of his food. He's taking the medication very well. He watches me roll it up in the pill pocket, and he just thinks it's an extra treat inside of a treat, so it makes him very excited. He's a good boy. He's a very, very good dog. He just turned 11 in July, and then all of this happened, and anytime that anything is slightly weird with him anyway, I immediately get worried because he's a little dude, and he's been here for half of my life, and thinking about anything genuinely happening to him is terrible. So getting him put on medication was definitely the right call, and taking him in was definitely the right call, and he's breathing a lot easier now and is doing better, which is a plus. That's what matters the most to me. I'm glad that he's doing well and all of that, but that is one of the first things that had an impact on my writing, my editing for Gent, my freelance tasks, my recording, my video editing habits, all of that. It also helped change my sleep schedule, which is the next big point. Currently, I'm going to bed at about 10 p.m. and waking up anywhere between 7 a.m. anywhere between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. This morning, I slept until 10 a.m. and felt like garbage for it. Currently, I am fatigued all the time. I'm cold as hell. My hands are freezing. They can't go much further than this without it hurting, but I can do that. It just doesn't feel good. It feels very rock solid in my knuckles and very cold, and not what I should be doing with my hands. But because of all of those things, I am assuming that my thyroid is out of whack again. And I don't go back for blood tests until December. I would like to continue to prolong that until December if I possibly can. I'm supposed to go in every 6 months for a blood test. And if I do it right now instead, it will just mess up when we have to shell out a couple $100s for a blood test again. So I would like to wait for as long as I can. So currently, in addition to my sleep schedule being messed up, I'm also tired the whole time I'm awake. I take naps throughout the day now because I can't function without them, and I'm freezing cold the whole time. I'm wearing long pants, fluffy socks, a tank top, and a long sleeve shirt here, and I'm still very cold. In between these film takes, I have a heater on, I have a rechargeable hand warmer thing that I'm using on my hands. All of them together barely do anything. I shivered through most of the night, even though the furnace was on and I had a blanket on and I was wearing a sweater. It's cold insensitivity, and you're just colder when your thyroid's out of whack. I don't know if it does that when your thyroid is hyperactive, but it does do that when your thyroid is hypoactive. I would assume that hyperactive would make you feel hot all the time, just logistically, but I don't know if that's the case or not. But then I also have another exciting bit of news to share with you, and that is that on October 8th, my cat, Bean, who you guys have seen, she is the calico cat, had kittens, and I had to go find them. So give me a moment to turn on the heater, and then when I am mildly warm again, I'll be back with you. So on October 8th, in the morning when my mom left, because I am awake, I'm just waking up around the same time she is right now. So after she left, she texted me and was like, hey, just letting you know, I didn't see Bean on the porch, and when I called for her, she didn't respond. And that's very unusual for Bean, because normally when you walk out on the porch, she's very excited to see you. She's very happy that you're there. She jumps down from the rafters, she comes over and loves up against you and meows at you and purrs at you and wants you to pet her. So that was weird. So after I finished eating that morning, I went out on the porch and called for her, meowed for her, etc. And she didn't respond at all. But I did hear one little kitten meow back at me. For most people, if you haven't had a ton of cats, or if you have and you've had very good luck with them, you might just think that the cat is just chilling with her babies. But I've had a lot of cats, we've raised a lot of litters, and generally the mama cat is purring while she's nursing, so you can generally hear that. Normally the mama cat will still respond to you while she's nursing, and generally, if the mama cat is unheard of or unseen, it can be hard to imagine what might have happened. One of the very last years that we had outside cats, something went wrong with the pregnancy of one of our cats, Smokey, and a kitten had died and gotten stuck inside of her. And we had to put her down. So the whole time that I was out there, which was about 3 hours, that was all I could think of. So on the 8th, I had 2 anxiety attacks searching for Bean all by myself. Eventually, after 3 hours of moving totes and Christmas tree boxes and everything else on the porch, I found her. She had jumped down or fallen down. I still don't know how she got her pregnant fat ass back there. In between a stack of totes and the wall. She had about this much space, give or take, and she had gotten down there and had her kittens on the floor in between the bottommost tote and the wall. So I lifted all of those totes off, and when I got the second to last one moved out, she jumped up on top of the tote, meowed at me, purred at me, loved up against me. First of all, a real asshole move, since I was searching for her for 3 hours and she chose not to respond until that very moment. But I'm trying to ignore that because I love her. So, after that, I moved her, and all 4 babies were safe and sound, so I moved them all into a box, which I moved into my room, which was the initial plan. The plan had just been to move her in there before she had the babies, because that same day I was expecting a cat pen to arrive. It's a huge cat pen. I assembled it. It goes back between my desk and my bed, and then it comes out alongside Tinkerbell's cage, my chinchilla, and then comes out in a big square that more than fits her, the box, a bed, a litter box, her food and water dishes, a couple toys, and a cat scratching thingy, and it fits all of that with extra room. So she gets about half of my room for her and the kittens. So that has also taken up my time. They are not yet a week old. Today they are 6 days old, which is great. They're all very cute. We have an all-black kitten with a little white spot on his chest. He kind of looks like Celine, but black instead of gray. We have a tiger kitten, which we normally do when there's a calico. We have a black calico, which I think is called a tortie, but basically they're black with amber colors on them instead of being white and orange with black splotches. And then we have a black kitten with a white little snout and white paws. They're all very cute. None of them have names yet because when they're babies it's very hard to tell if they're male or female when they're very little. It gets a little easier as they age. But for now, she's doing great, especially for her first litter. It's insane. The babies are all healthy. They're all much bigger than any of the litters we've ever had are, size-wise, not like number-wise. And things are going well. She's happy in my room. She feels safe in there. She hasn't tried to steal a kitten and move him into my closet or anything like that. She hasn't tried to jump the gate or the pen and kill my chinchilla. Things are going well. However, it doesn't change the fact that my day has been occupied with quite a few things. I finally feel recovered from the anxiety attacks that I had on the 8th. Those really put me out of commission. Most of the last several days I've been writing like 28 words a day. Sometimes I'm lucky if I write like 200 words. And things have just been weird. I also spent 5 days in a row, I think, getting this phone and my mom's new phone set up with Verizon, which was fun. It was a lot of back and forth with customer service there and US Cellular, but I finally got it fixed. So now, presumably, I can dedicate my time to writing and editing for Gent, as well as a few freelance things thrown in here and there, but who knows. For the meantime, let's get into some actual writing stuff. So I'm not going to tell you any statistics about September except for the fact that I wrote 55,388 words. You can surmise the end of that based on the last video that I filmed for September. It's not very impressive, so, or not the 55,000 isn't impressive. That's a lot more than some people write. It's a lot more than I write some months. I just mean that from when I stopped filming to the end of September, I didn't make a huge progress jump or anything. But this month so far, I have written 8,600 words, which is counting the 680 words that I just put in there for Murder at the Fang Marina, which is a book that I started on September 19th. It is a vampire forensics book. I'm very excited to write it. I'm loving it so far. I'm not going to go through and tell you how much progress I've made on my books so far because they're pretty low numbers on most of them, and it would just take a while to say I haven't been doing a lot. But I've worked on every single one of my books. I have worked on editing for Gent. I've worked on freelance AI task stuff. I've made progress across the board. It just hasn't been progress that is up to where I would like it to be. And then when it comes to editing my videos, I edit all of those on the PlayStation. I realize I forgot to say this, but I edit all of those on the PlayStation, which I do at night, so that way the birds are quiet and I don't have to listen to them screaming in my ear. But now that I'm sleeping on normal people hours, the birds are loud the whole time I'm awake, so I can't edit my videos on the PlayStation right now. So I either need a separate device to do that, because I can't do it on the computer. It doesn't have enough RAM for that. And I can't do it on the PlayStation until I fix my sleep schedule. So there's that. But let's get into October here. On the 1st, I wrote 264 words. I'm not going to tell you what I wrote them between because that would take way too long to go through and see. On October 2nd, I wrote 1,352. On October 3rd, I wrote 696. On October 4th, I wrote 880. On the 5th, I wrote 844. On the 6th, I wrote 220. On the 7th, I wrote 236. On the 8th, I wrote 98. On the 9th, I wrote 46. On the 10th, I wrote 140. On the 11th, I wrote 20. On the 12th, I wrote 1,764. On the 13th, I wrote 1,360. And here on the 14th so far, I have written 680 words. I would like to pretend that I'm going to write more today, but I am not. I'm going to spend the rest of the day transferring stats from this app, Write-A-Meter, onto a Google Sheets spreadsheet because this phone sucks. The reason we got the new phones and the reason we finally decided to make the switch over to a new carrier is because our old phones sucked. They were constantly running out of storage space when they had more than enough space left to spare. Mine shit out on me the day before we got new phones. It kept shutting itself off and canceling my phone calls, which I needed to be making, and in general it was just shitty. Today, while I was filming the first 2 videos of this, it was back behind me trying to reboot itself by going in a constant loop of the starting screen. So if I want to keep my writing stats, and I do, I'm going to copy those over to a spreadsheet. So that's what I'm going to do. So today, for the 14th, my final number is 8,600 words for October so far. So that's where we are, that's where we stand. Hopefully I'll get back to editing soon, videos, and hopefully I'll get back to a flow that is relatively normal for me at some point. But we will see, and I will see you guys soon. I'm going to skip my normal ending because I am almost out of time. So I'll just say thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.